Today is June 30th, 2024. Welcome to the 395th episode of the Videogames podcast, where I talk about any game at all, including new stuff, old stuff, and anything in between. My name is Brad Galloway. I am the one-man host of this show, and I'm also the editor of GameCritics.com, a website that uses the full range of review scores from 0 to 10, while also offering full accessibility information on every review we publish. Thanks for joining me today. Hello. As usual, I'm going to kick things off with housekeeping, where I discuss tidbits, news items, industry happenings, and basically anything randomly game adjacent that caught my eye in the last 7 days. It's going to be a light housekeeping this week because my eye has been pretty busy elsewhere, but I do have a couple of things to discuss. First off, Rogue Trader, the Warhammer 40k RPG that was just blowing my mind recently. I mean, I haven't finished it quite yet. I put it on pause, but I'm loving everything about it. I think it's really just wonderful. It's kind of like a Baldur's Gate 3, but set in the Warhammer universe. And I'm definitely going to be coming back to that. One of my top games of the year for sure. They are coming out with some upcoming DLC and a whole slew of patches. In addition to the new DLC, which is story-based campaign, adding a new quest line and a brand new character who I think is a female assassin who will be incorporated into the main campaign, and also someone you can do their own side mission for, which is very exciting. They're also doing quite a bit of fixing, nudging, tweaking, patching, and so forth. The list of stuff they are tweaking is pretty extensive. I'm not going to go through the whole thing here, but a lot of it is game balancing. Some of the specific powers were like going out of turn. There's more co-op added, so you can play the entire campaign from the start with a friend, which I think would be pretty incredible. Some UI stuff, improved inventory sorting, better tool tips, etc., etc. Let's see. Visual effects have been fixed, some backgrounds, new dialogue for secret companions. Who is the secret companion? I gotta look that up. Rumors, which is a kind of a subsystem in the game, is now highlighted on the map, which is great. Lots of visual effects fixed, audio effects fixed, whatever. It's tons of fixes for a game that was already pretty kick-ass, and a new character and a whole new side quest coming. If you haven't dipped into Rogue Trader yet, you're missing out. Not only do you have to... Well, okay, let me restate that. You don't have to be a 40k fan to enjoy this game. I think it's a really great kind of like isometric PC style RPG on its own. I've been just loving it and playing it on PlayStation 5, I believe. Although I think it's also on Xbox and PC. But if you do love 40k, I honestly, like, genuinely, no hyperbole here, I think it's one of the best uses of the 40k license, like, ever in the history of these 40k game adaptations. Boy, that's a hard word to say. Adaptations. So if you haven't checked into it yet, please do check it out. I think it's wonderful, and this just seems like it's just getting better with this patch and extra content. Okay. Other thing that caught my attention this week, the video game speedrunning marathon known as Summer Games Done Quick 2024 is, checking the calendar, starting today, June 30th. It's starting today, June 30th, running all the way to July 6th, taking place live in Minneapolis from what I understand, but it's also going to be online. I think it's Twitch, if I'm not mistaken. It's going to have a variety of games, including Alan Wake 2, Animal Well, Halo 3, Another Crab's Treasure, Super Mario RPG Remake, Ken Griffey Jr. Presents Major League Baseball, which is interesting. And the proceeds go to Doctors Without Borders, who provide medical assistance to people afflicted by diseases, disasters, violent conflict globally. So you can donate online, you can donate in person. Check it out, gamesdonequick.com. And after Summer Games Done Quick, there is another event, the all-women/femmes summer speedrunning event. It's called Flame Fatales. That's taking place in August 18th through 25. So heads up that exists, and it is coming. And I believe that's all I've got for housekeeping this week. It's been a light week. Now, before I get to the main portion of the show, just want to quickly remind people that you can help support this very podcast, this one right here, by going to patreon.com/the Videogames podcast. Every little bit helps with the costs of hosting and equipment and such. Even $1 would be a great help. Also, huge thanks to all the people who are our Patreon supporters already. They are putting their money where their ears is. That's not right, but you know what I mean. Also, There is a So Videogames Discord, which any listener is welcome to join free of charge. If you want to join up and continue this conversation after the show, just shoot me an email and I will send you all the details. Okay, let's get to it, folks. Main portion of the show, and I've got a humdinger of a show for you today. Starting off with Circlebacks, which is where I bring up a game that I'm still playing, even though I may have covered it previously on the show. I'm not going to get into all the general overview, systems, nitty-gritty stuff that I normally would do if I was covering a game for the first time. I'm just going to touch back on it. If you want more deets, you can go back to the last couple episodes and probably find it there. And we do have descriptions of all of the games covered in each episode. I don't give timestamps because that seems like it takes a lot of time and effort, and I just don't have the time and effort. But I do list the games, and so it'll be pretty easy to find them, and those games are listed in the order they appear. So that'll help somewhat. Okay, first up, Shadow of the Erdtree, the Elden Ring DLC that everybody is talking about. Apparently everybody's playing. They just, Bandai Namco just announced that they have shifted, I want to say 5 million copies since launch, which wasn't that long ago. I want to say maybe like a week, maybe a little bit more, give or take. I don't know. So cool. Congratulations to FromSoft, everybody involved on the Elden Ring team. Everybody who's so excited. I know a lot of people personally have been very excited to play it. Good friend J Monster was very excited. Good friend Mike Susky was excited. I know a lot of the people in the Gaming in the Wild Discord were very excited. So excited there's actually like a sub Discord channel over there. Also, shout out to Gaming in the Wild, one of my favorite shows. They are not a sponsor. They are just a good show, and I like to support good things. And if you want to listen to a good show that you're not listening to already, go check out my friend John and Gaming in the Wild and all his wonderful people that are in his Discord over there. One of my favorite places to hang out. Anyway, so yeah, I guess, I don't know. Following in my own footsteps over the course of my entire life, I feel like I have to be kind of the outlier on this one. And I gotta say, folks, I'm just not digging it. I just don't think it's very good. I know that's probably sacrilege right now, and I did talk about last time on the previous episode that I wasn't like super jazzed for it, which is true. I didn't go into it like salivating. I went into it planning to play with my wife because we really enjoy the co-op, and that's what we've been doing. We've been playing co-op the whole time, which is fine. But oh man, where do I even start? I just feel like there's something different about this DLC. I feel like it's not hitting for me. So I guess let me just circle back on myself and just kind of start from the beginning here. So we're playing in co-op the entire time, and I realize that we are like probably an extreme edge case because that is not how this game is intended to be played. And I get that. I get that. Miyazaki himself, the creator / director of the series, has said that his original idea was that, you would just meet people every once in a while by these random summon signs, that you wouldn't really get to know them very well. It would be mysterious and strange. Usually you would call somebody in for a boss, and that was like the basic concept. Like maybe you would find them mostly right outside a boss door, and then you would call them in, defeat the boss, have a cool moment with somebody that you didn't know, and then bounce, right? But over the years that the series has been around, I think more and more people just want to play this with their friends. It's a fun game in general if you like the Souls type stuff, and my wife and I have been playing together in one form or another for as long as we've been able to. Now, at first, it wasn't really very feasible, but at this point in time, you can basically summon somebody and you can run around in a giant area. As soon as you beat a boss, then your friend gets kicked back to their game, but you can like play for long stretches with your friend or partner, spouse, whatever, and that's what we've been doing, so it's fine. The problem with this, though, is that if you play the way that we're playing this unintentional co-op, you get invaded all the time. Now, I've spoken to many people who have played Elden Ring the entire campaign and never been invaded once, not by a real person. I know that sometimes there are some story-based, fake invasions where it looks like somebody's invading you, but actually it's pre-scripted and it's just a computer character. But I've spoken to many people who have never, ever, ever, ever been invaded, and I wish that I had that experience, because when you play co-op in Elden Ring, you get invaded like literally every 3 minutes. I think the idea behind that was they don't expect people to play in co-op. They think that you're probably going to summon somebody right outside like a boss door, so maybe you're very focused, you're going to take on a tough section or just a tough boss, and so they're thinking that if somebody comes in to gank you, like an invader comes in, you've probably already got a friend there to help you out, which is great. But that's not how we're playing. And so what happens is, because my wife and I are usually together, that means we are like number one priority on the game server for people to be invaded by, because we've always got a friend. Like, I have her, she has me. And so we get invaded like literally like, I'm not even joking. This is not a joke. I'm not exaggerating. It's like every between 3 and 5 minutes. We can't go more than that before somebody shows up. Now, I have to just take Miyazaki to task and the rest of the Souls team to say, look, guys and gals and, indeterminate gender people or whoever, trans people, anybody, whoever's working on the team. I don't care. It doesn't matter. The time to kind of like embrace that mystique, that mystery, that back in the day, like when Demon Souls dropped, Game Critics was fortunate enough to be one of the sites that was able to play that game pre-release. So we were like basically the first people in the United States, in a small group, not just us, but I mean a small group of reviewers who were able to get this. And back in the day, it was mysterious. It was strange. We didn't know what to expect from this game. It was so different from everything we played. It was like, oh man, you could kill NPCs. What the fuck? And there was these strange mechanics that we didn't understand. And then sometimes you would get invaded and it was like, holy shit, what's that all about? That's scary. Like we didn't know. It was so novel and new back then. And I get that. And it's cool back then. But now we're like several games in. Everybody knows what Souls is about. Souls has become its own genre. There's copycats. There's offshoots. Like, it's a thing now, right? And so that mystique is no longer there. I really wish that the Souls team would just get on board, give us regular co-op. And thanks to one of the people in the Gaming in the Wild Discord, they did send me a link that said Miyazaki is considering just regular ass co-op for their next game. And please do, because this is just like, it's terrible. It's so hard to make progress. It's so hard to like get anything done when every 3 minutes somebody's showing up and just like fucking with your game. And the mystery's not even there anymore. Like, we know exactly how this works. We know exactly what to do. We know how to game the system. And I gotta say, if you think adding regular co-op takes away from the mystique and ambiance of your Souls game, let me tell you, it's not any worse than getting invaded by somebody called Cheesy Burrito or Arizona Iced Tea. When Arizona Iced Tea invades your game, it shatters your fucking immersion, let me tell you. And I do want to give a shout out to Prescription Dave, who was our hunter who came to help us out. So, when these goofy ass names show up and you get interrupted all the time, I mean, the mystique is gone, so let's just get a better system going. Please. Okay, so that's specifically a co-op thing that I wanted to talk about. But let's talk about the DLC itself. It's hard to say exactly what it is, but I feel like something is just really off about this. I think, number one, I don't like the Erdtree item level up system that they're doing. This is brand new to the DLC, and I've read some interviews that said they try to think of a way to make it challenging for people who might have already been through New Game plus, and they probably are level 8,000 and they've got all the items and stuff. And I just have to wonder, maybe you just don't design for those people. Maybe they just have to take it upon themselves to start a new character, or just to like have an alt or something. Because this new Erdtree system means that when you go to the new DLC area, it's called the Land of Shadow. I had a post-game character. My wife had a post-game character. We had great shit like swords and armor. Like, we were all kitted out. And when we got to this area, like, basically every enemy in the Land of Shadow hits like a fucking truck. And so it's pretty common to like walk around and one enemy hits you once and like half your life bar is gone, sometimes more. So that's a bummer, because everybody is like so fucking deadly. And this new system using these Erdtree fragments, basically each one of these gives you plus 5% attack and plus 5% defense. So you have to like run around and find these fragments in order to bolster your attack and defense in the Land of Shadow, which is the DLC area. That's entirely on top of and separate your previous skills, your levels, and all that stuff. So even if you were a badass at the end of Elden Ring, you are nothing when you start the Land of Shadow, which, I mean, I can kind of understand why they did it, but honestly, I don't know why they didn't just proceed with a regular path of progression like the main campaign. In Elden Ring, you could go anywhere in any direction, basically, and you just leveled up and you just, got stronger as you went. And if you hit somebody that was too strong, then you went, you came back later. But it wasn't about like finding items or anything. I mean, it was just about grinding out some experience or just finding a better weapon, kitting yourself out a little bit more. But in this particular case, you have to get those fragments. It doesn't really matter what you have. It doesn't really matter how you kit yourself out. It doesn't matter what your build is. You're just not strong enough without these little things. And it sucks to just feel completely stymied, like there's no way forward unless you go and track these things down. And they're not exactly like right there. I mean, you find one when you start the DLC, because that's the one that tells you what the system is. But after that, they're just like all over hill and dale, man. They're like everywhere. And so you got to like rack them up pretty quickly, and it's hard to find them. I mean, you have to like basically comb the entire map. I think right now, the max level of the Erdtree fragments is 20, and which should, if everything is mathematically correct, I mean, that'll give you like 100% more defense and 100% more attack, which might make you more survivable. Great. Right now I'm like at level 4 Erdtree fragments, and my wife is also, and it's like, they're not just like around. I mean, they're like super far away, so it's taking us forever to level up. Every boss we get to is too tough for us because we're just getting steamrolled. And this is coming from people who beat Millennia. I mean, we beat the last boss. We beat that dragon, whatever that guy's name, Placidusax or whatever. Like, we've done everything in the main campaign. It's not like we don't know how to play this game. So I just don't really care for that system. On top of that, I feel like it's just not great content, man. There's a lot of empty space. There's a lot of dead ends that we get to that there's nothing there. I haven't found even one item that was better than something I already had. So it's not even like I'm finding a new cool sword or a new cool spell or anything. We've been playing for a number of hours now, and like neither one of us has really changed anything that we've equipped or use, which is a bummer, because getting those little fun things to find is really part of the drive forward, right? You never know when you're going to find a cool new spell, cool new knife, cool new helmet or something, which happened every 5 seconds in the main campaign of Elden Ring. If you remember, you couldn't friggin' turn over a log without finding some kind of new sword or something, and it was always kind of neat and fun. But this time, we're getting just like tons of smithing stones, getting tons of like money, but like nothing that's really cool. Like a lot of cookbooks. I mean, whatever, who cares? I just don't feel like we've gotten any good rewards. And so we're in these empty spaces, going through these dungeons that just kind of feel like they're there. They don't feel very inspired. Not really getting any good rewards. I don't know, man. I just don't feel like this is great quality content. Honestly, I'm pretty bored. And again, full disclosure, it's not like I was like salivating for this, but like as I'm sitting here playing through it, I just don't think it's very good. I just don't think it's very fun. I'm not enjoying it. And I don't see myself really going the distance. Even my wife, who was way gung-ho, she was super hyped up for this to get into Erdtree. She's also losing steam as well. Like, we're just like, we climb up this ladder, nothing there. We go into this little canyon, nothing there. We find the secret room. Oh, it's money. Or you go inside this cave. Oh, it's a smithing stone. Like, whatever. Like, we're not finding anything good, and then just getting steamrolled by the bosses is a drag. So honestly, maybe it's not the popular opinion. Maybe it's not what you think, and that's fine. Everybody is entitled to their own opinion, of course. But I just don't think Erdtree is very good. I don't think it's very, very fun. I think the main campaign of Elden Ring is going to be an all-timer. Still enjoy that very much. Put 200 hours into it, so I don't do that for games I don't enjoy. But I don't know, man. Erdtree is kind of losing me, so I'm not sure I'm going to hang with that. So there you go. That is my lone circle back for today. And I do have plenty of new stuff to cover, and a lot of it I'm way higher on than Erdtree. So let's get on to the main portion of the show here. Oh, you know what? I meant to bring this up earlier, and I forgot. I just want to share a quick little story. I live not in downtown Seattle, but I live in Seattle, Washington, kind of on the outskirts of the city. And we've got a garage, and it's kind of right now we don't park anything in it. It's just kind of a storage facility. So we dumped a bunch of boxes and stuff and tools and whatever in there, and then we kind of left it. Haven't really gone into it a lot since last year, because we were kind of like cleaning up the house and reorganizing things and whatever. And so I'm like, okay, so it's like summertime now. It's good weather. I'm going to go to the garage and just like get this thing in order so it can just be nice and everything. So I go out there with my son, and we open the garage door. And we've been in there sporadically. It's not like it's been abandoned or anything, but we don't really like spend a lot of time in there. Anyway, we get inside, and I'm moving things around, and I see like a shadow out of the corner of my eye kind of scurrying along. And I'm like, oh, damn it. When we first moved in, we had rats, not in the house at all, which would have completely freaked me out, but in the garage. There was, it's not like we live in the forest or anything. It's like, slightly like suburban-y, woodsy. But there's a fair amount of bush and stuff out here. And so there were some rats that were running around. And we, trapped him and killed him and got rid of him. And because the last thing in the world I wanted was for him to get inside the house. So anyway, there were some rats in the garage, and I set some traps, and it was really tough to get rid of them, but whatever. I thought we finally cleared them out. So we come back in the garage, and I saw that shadow out of the corner of my eye. I'm like, oh, damn it, are those rats back? What's going on? And so I start chasing them down, trying to see, what's going on, looking for traces of, rat poop or something, or things that are chewed up, and I didn't see anything. And so I start moving some boxes around again, and I see another shadow scurrying out of the corner of my eye. And I kind of turn to look. I'm like, oh, is it maybe a mouse? Is it smaller than the rat? Because the rats out here are huge. So I go, oh, is it a mouse? And I look, and I don't see anything. And so I move a box over, and there it is. It's not a mouse. It's not a rat, folks. It's a giant fucking spider. And not only is it one fucking spider, it's a lot of them. And I'm like, oh my God. We booked it out of the garage. I was like, holy shit. I thought that was a mouse. It was a fucking spider. That's larger than I'm prepared to deal with. So we regrouped, and we kind of like tried to herd the spiders towards the chicken yard, because the chicken yard is right next to the garage. And so we eventually chased them over there, and the chickens could see them coming. Like, they were ready, right? The chickens were like on their side of the fence, and they were just like salivating. So the spiders go through out of the garage into the chicken yard. They think they're escaping into the woods. No, my friend. There was an army of hungry chickens just waiting for those gross ass spiders to go through the fence, and the chickens descended and fucking like just tore them up. It was kind of gross though, because these were pretty substantial spiders. I mean, if I thought it was a mouse, that tells you how big I thought it was. And the chickens would grab them, and you could see the chickens kind of like wrestling with them a little bit. It wasn't just like a peck gulp. It was like grab and then hold on to it in the beak, and their legs are wriggling, and they're kind of, the chicken's like, oh, what am I doing with this? And the other chickens would come, and they were like kind of fighting over them a little bit. It was like throwing a steak into like a yard full of hungry dogs, kind of the same idea. So that was gross and horrifying, and I just wanted to share that with you because I couldn't bear all that trauma all by myself. So thank you for unwillingly sharing in my spider-based trauma today. Okay, that's all the spider news I have for today. Let's get back to the main portion of the show with actual friggin' video games. All right, first up is a 2D pixel-based indie platformer / roguelike, sort of, coming from Wired Dreams Studio. It's called Frogue, Frogue, which is a portmanteau between frog and rogue, and I think that's very clever. I'm always am I down for a good portmanteau. I love it. I do that all the time. Honestly, I do. So this is a really fun one and a really interesting one. What it is again, 2D platforming rogue, but you're a frog. You're a frog who also has a cape and a sword, vaguely anthropomorphic frog. You're in these levels, which are basically platformer levels. You've got each level is basically the size of a Switch screen. So you can cling to any surface, and you can jump. You cannot walk, but you can jump and cling from surface to surface. So if you're on the floor and there's a platform above you, you can jump up to that platform. You will jump up and stick to the ceiling. And then if there are any enemies in the way, you will kill them en route. So you're not specifically attacking enemies per se, but what you are doing is leaping from surface to surface, and you want to angle yourself in such a way so that when you will leap through an enemy, you'll cut them with your sword, and then you will land on the surface that you were aiming for. So you want to kill enemies along the way. Now, this may sound like an action-based game, and it's action-y, but it's not. It is actually turn-based, and I think that is a brilliant choice. I think this game overall is really quite good and quite fun. I love the graphics. I think your frog character is super cool and nifty. I love his vibe. I love the concept of jumping from surface to surface, like little froggy leaps. Perfect blend of gameplay elements and like these, the aesthetic elements. It makes sense. You're a frog, you jump. Frogs stick to things. It all comes together really nicely. Everybody likes a frog with a sword. I know I do for sure. So that's really great. And in fact, it's kind of reminiscent of a game that came out a while ago. I don't know if anybody remembers, but there's a game, I'm pretty sure it's called Dandara, which was coming from a South American development team. It was kind of a 2D rogue. No, not a roguelike. It was a Metroidvania where you played this cool looking lady with this awesome hair, and she could not walk, but she would jump and cling from surface to surface. Similar to this, but Dandara was real time, and this Frogue is turn-based. Honestly, I think turn-based is the way to go with this, because when you're in a room with all these enemies floating around, some are on the ground, some are on the wall, some are in the air, etc., the game flags to you which ones are about to attack next. They like flash red or something like that. And so you know who is not going to attack and who will. You can take your time, look at all your options, look at all the angles, and figure out your best plan of attack. And I think that giving the player the opportunity to breathe and to think and to consider is really a smart move. I'm very, very glad that they did turn-based, because if this was real time, it would end up too frenetic. You would take too many hits. I think it would just be too chaotic. But by making it turn-based, you really can introduce some solid strategy elements, which I think are marvelous. So I think that works really well. I like the concept. I like the controls. I like the action. You can also throw your sword in case you miss a jump and you're kind of off a little bit, or you miss a guy or something like that. You can, wherever you're at, whether you're on a ceiling, floor, or whatever, you can aim and then throw your sword at an enemy. Your sword will then hang in the air wherever you left it. You can either jump and get it, or if you go a couple turns, it'll just come back to you if you can't get over there to get it. So that is also a great idea. I love that. The roguelike element of the game comes into what I assume are randomly generated levels. I believe you start off, I want to say something like in the like quote unquote, the castle basement, even though it doesn't seem like you're in a castle. It seems like you're just in a series of abstract rooms. And then after you beat a boss, you get up to like the, I don't know, castle first floor or something like that. So I'm assuming you get to the top of the castle. There's a big boss there, I guess. But also, in addition to the randomly generated rooms, you have certain abilities that you will pick up, and you'll get like, it'll be like, throw your sword a little bit further, or, you can slow time. There's one of your abilities is the ability to slow time. So if you're in the middle of a bunch of bullets, you pop the slow time and you can get out. So you can slow time a little bit longer, or your radius for slowing time is a little bit wider, something like that. So overall, I think this game is like a winner. I really liked it a lot. I had a lot of fun with it. I didn't finish. And if I had to offer some criticisms, I would say that I think that the roguelike element could be leaned into a little bit more by way of different abilities, like crazier abilities, or different weapons, maybe a gun, or maybe like a pair of knives, or an umbrella, or something like that. I think the core gameplay here is really solid, and I enjoy it quite a bit. So it's definitely a thumbs up. But I think that it doesn't vary enough. And so I ended up taking shorter bursts of the game, because even though it is a roguelike, it just didn't feel different enough from run to run. And, as Mr. Roguelike, if you've listened to this podcast, I play basically every roguelike. One of the best aspects of any roguelike is the ability to have a different feeling each run. So even though you may be having the same character, but you never know what weapon you're going to pick up, what modifier you're going to pick up, what different weapons, the interactions you might get. So for example, I think one of the best examples of the whole genre is obviously Hades, right? So, you've got the same basic systems, but like every run can be wildly different. You've got like 5 or 6 basic weapons. You've got a million modifiers. You've got all sorts of powers and abilities. You've got the stuff you got back at base. And so the combination of all those things makes each run feel super fresh. And I think, if anything, that's really Frogue's big issue, is that each run doesn't feel different enough. I got a couple abilities, but they were all like really mild modifiers, just like slight variations on stuff that I was already doing. And so it didn't feel as varied or as wild as Hades did. And I get that Hades is like at the top of the genre, acknowledged, but still, I think Frogue just kind of suffers from a little bit of, sameness after a while. But I don't mean to be too down on it. I think it's a brilliant idea. I mean, just a really, really great idea. I think the art is charming. I think it's really fun and fresh and different. I know we're kind of all drowning in Vampire Survivors likes right now, so it's fun to get somebody who's doing something completely different, which I applaud. So Frogue, it's good stuff. Definitely check it out if anything I've said sounds appealing. All right, next game up is called Rusted Moss. This is coming to us from publisher Playism, and they did provide a code, and so did the Frogue people, so thank you very much for those codes. Appreciate it. So Rusted Moss is a 2D indie Metroidvania, but there's a catch. So this may be a little bit out of left field for some people, but there is a series of Japanese games called Umihara Kawase. And this is a long-running series, which is basically about a girl who's in these fantasy platforming worlds. All the enemies are like fish with legs, and she has a fishing pole. And the fishing pole has an elastic line on it. So her main method of transportation is swinging that fishing pole around, hooking onto something in the environment, and then using the elastic line to bounce around and get to places. Now, I don't know if you've ever played Umihara Kawase, but it is hard as fuck. I found it so incredibly difficult to master the physics of that fishing pole. It just, it was really, really tough. Really tough. Harder than any other grappling hook I've ever played. And I play a lot of them because I also like grappling hooks almost as much as I like roguelikes. So if you are familiar with that game, you know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're not familiar, don't worry about it. I'll explain it in greater detail. Basically, in Rusted Moss, you start as a girl. She wakes up and she's got a friend with her, a little kind of a monstery friend. And the story is not 100% transparent, but I think they give you enough to get started. I appreciate the beginning. And as you go, you find out more things. Basically, you are some kind of a fae person, like F-A-E, fairy person, and you are going to war against the humans, even though you kind of do look like a human. Maybe you were like a sleeper agent or something like that. So the fairies are at war with the humans, but it's also kind of a post-apocalyptic environment. Like there's like ruins and people have guns and stuff, and so it's not really fantasy-based. So you and your monster friend go through these 2D Metroidvania levels, and where the grappling hook comes in is your friend, the little monster. He can become a grappling hook. He can extend himself to any particular length. It doesn't matter. As long as you can see it on screen, that little monster guy can stretch out to it, and it functions just like a rubber grappling hook. Very, very similar to Umihara Kawase. The difference is I feel like it's not nearly as wild and chaotic and out of control. It still is rubbery. The line that you swing on is rubbery. It's definitely not like any other grappling hook I've played. Something about this is kind of unique to Japanese developers, I believe. But when you start doing this game, they do really good work when it comes to tutorialization. They set you up with a couple of levels that are just very simple and straightforward. They draw lines on the background of the area to show what the trajectory of your character should be in order to have the right momentum, the right speed, in order to make these jumps. And so I think it works really well as an instructive tutorial, which is better than Umihara Kawase ever did for me. So I appreciate that. It didn't take me too long, and I do believe that there's some leniency involved in it. So even though there's a few times when I felt like I maybe shouldn't have made the jump, I do make the jump. I think they've maybe fudged things a little bit towards the player, which is great. So you have this springy, bungee grappling hook. You're in a world where humans and fairies are fighting, and it's 2D Metroidvania, pixel-based. The art is awesome. I love the art. It is kind of minimal, but like full of character. I like the colors, and also it's clearly depicted so that you always know what you can grapple onto and what you can't. There's no confusion, which I think is wonderful. I am curious to see where the story goes. It's kind of this kind of like slightly brutal tale of these two sides conflicting. There's also some personal elements. It seems like some of the bosses that you come across were personally betrayed by your character, who did not apparently tell anyone that she was a fairy at the beginning. So, she acted like a human, got in under false pretenses, and then got the information she needed, and then revealed that she was a fairy. Conflict ensues. You can see how friend feels like they're turning against friend. So I like it a lot. I think it's really cool. I'm not super keen on Metroidvanias right now, but this one is definitely keeping my attention just because it's really quick moving. You don't spend a lot of time like with being stuck in places. You can grapple to a lot of ups and downs, and it's really fun just using this particular grappling hook. I really appreciate the work they took to make it more playable than the other versions I've seen. The only downside to this, not necessarily a downside, is that it can sometimes take some serious finger gymnastics in order to play this game efficiently. I've been really playing with the remapping of the controls. You can fully remap anything. And I just cannot find an optimal way to do this. I think the default control is actually pretty good. I think I may have like swapped one thing. But overall, they need you to be able to move and aim your grappling hook and be able to fire the grappling hook and be able to jump all at the same time. You also need to shoot as well because there's enemies. You've got a gun, which works well. So you need like basically every finger on both hands doing something all the time, which even even for a video game veteran like me, I was like, okay, wait a minute. I feel like my brain is reaching max capacity on this. It was a little tough, and I keep, I'm like, okay, so what if I put jump on this button? Nah, that doesn't work because then I can't shoot. What if I put shoot on this button? Nah, that doesn't work because then I can't grapple effectively. Okay, wait. What if I go back to, fuck, I guess I'm going back to the default, even though I feel like the default isn't optimal. I guess I just need like an extra hand or something, I need like 6 more fingers to be able to like do this effectively. So I'm playing it. I'm having fun. I think I've got myself a good little zone that I am progressing solidly, but I gotta say, sometimes I do hit those moments where I'm like, wait, which finger is doing what, and what am I doing again? Can't remember. So there are those moments. But overall, that's really the only complaint I have about it. I think it's charming. I think it looks great. I think it's a great idea. I think the pace of it is really good. I think the action is solid. I like it. I like it quite a bit. And I would definitely recommend it if you're looking for a Metroidvania that is different than the rest. If you like grappling hooks, if you want some kind of a unique experience when it comes to platforming and Metroidvania, it definitely doesn't feel like anything else I've played recently, except for Umihara Kawase, which was quite a while ago, and I don't think many people are familiar with that. So definitely check it out. I think it's good stuff. Rusted Moss is kind of doing it for me right now. Thumbs up. Next up is a third-person polygon-based shooter, which is also a roguelike, called ArcRunner. Playing it on the Xbox, and this comes to us from developer Trick Jump Games. Yes, I did pause really quickly and I googled that. So this is a cyberpunk roguelike action game. At the start of the game, the story is you are a memory file. You are the memory file of a real person who has been downloaded into the robotic body of I don't know, cyborg, or I guess an android or some kind of robot. Your personality is loaded in there, and the space station that you're on has been taken over by a rogue AI. So what you need to do is you need to get out there and take a new hard drive with a reboot file to this like tower off in the distance, right? So at the beginning of the game, you have the soldier archetype and you have the ninja archetype, and then there's a third archetype later on that you can unlock. I haven't unlocked that one. I picked a soldier. It's a pretty good archetype where you have a gun. You later unlock the ability to have a second gun. You can switch back and forth between them. You've got a melee weapon, which is like a hammer. You've got lots of different weapons you pick up in the field, like a submachine gun, pistol, laser rifle, shotgun. I mean, a lot of them are pretty straightforward. And then you've got this shield that like can tank basically any hit. You have a limited amount of the shield, but you take hits on the shield, and then you can most often save up that energy and shoot it back. So you've got a lot of pretty good defense. The other archetype from the start is the ninja, which I wasn't really that keen on. Same basic like run and gun with the selection of guns and stuff. They've got a sword instead of a hammer, and instead of the shield, they have the ability to turn invisible for a few seconds, which is kind of cool because any enemy chasing you just instantly stops because they can't see you anymore. But you lose invisibility really quickly. You've got way, way, way more shield as the soldier than you do invisibility as the ninja. So I felt like the ninja was just kind of at a disadvantage. I didn't really see a big tactical advantage there. It might, maybe just for variety's sake, but I preferred the soldier by far. So what you do is you go in these levels, you shoot guys that spawn in. They drop little power-ups, different guns. Some guns are better than others. Some are different. They have different stats. Or sometimes, if you have a shotgun, you'll pick up a shotgun that's got a better DPS, or it's got an acid quality or something to it. There's also these little rooms you can go into for certain challenges, and you collect this resource, and then you make it as far as you can. You want to make it to the end of the game if you can. Probably not going to happen the first couple times because there is that kind of like over time improvement where you have to kind of like earn resources, and then when you start a new run, it's actually kind of nifty. You earn these resources per run, and no matter how many resources you have, you just save them permanently. They become available to you at the start of each run. So let's say, for example, I start my first run as the soldier. I've got no resources. I go through, kill some dudes, make it a couple levels in, and then I die. And let's say that I've collected like 5 resources along that way. When I go back to the start of the game, I start the game with 5 resources. I allocate those wherever I want, which is like, more life, more damage, more whatever. Go through again, and then when you come back to the start of the game, you just keep building. So your character is constantly getting stronger always getting tougher, more options unlocking, which I think is great. I think the sense of progression is pretty good, and I appreciate that you're not starting with a completely clean slate every single time. The moment-to-moment combat, I think, is fine. I think I don't want to say it's calm, because it's not calm, but there's something about the combat that is not the same feeling as like one of those like frenetic like 90s Doom style shooters. It's not that frenetic, although it can get frenetic. It can get busy. But you for me anyway, with the soldier, I felt like it was slightly tactical, because I was thinking always about how I was shielding, slowly progressing forward, not exposing myself too much. So it felt fairly tactical. That's going to be totally different if you choose the ninja, but for me, that's how it felt. And it wasn't just run and gun. Like, I was often thinking on my feet about, where should I go? What's the best position? Which hit should I tank? Which one should I block? That kind of stuff. And so I think the combat feels pretty good. I think the control feels pretty good. And there's something about the measured pace of it that worked for me. When you get set out in these levels, they're all very neon, sci-fi. It almost looks like you're in Tron or the Matrix or something like that, which is pretty cool. And you just go through, shoot some guys, get to the next checkpoint. And between levels, you can allocate one of your resources to improve something that you get, which is where some of the roguelike element comes in. Sometimes you'll get like a little gun that mounts on your shoulder that'll fire every 5 seconds. Sometimes you get like, little turrets you can drop. Sometimes you'll get the ability to double jump or something. So there are slight variations, but I think kind of like Frogue, one of the biggest problems with this game, with ArcRunner, is that the runs don't feel different enough. And I think that's kind of a problem with many roguelikes that come out these days. The runs just don't feel different enough. So I think that ArcRunner is pretty well put together. I'm actually having a pretty good amount of fun with it. I plan on playing it when I get off the podcast here. But I think for me, the combat feels good. The visuals are kind of neat looking. I like the way it looks. I like the concept of it. I just don't think it really nails the roguelike aspect that well. I wish there was more difference in how you felt. I mean, you can get different weapons and stuff, but basically you're kind of doing the same gameplay. I wish you would get something really wild, like fireballs, or the ability to fly, or a clone of yourself, or something to spice it up a little bit more. I get the sense that the team behind this was really focused on polishing what they had, and they did polish it pretty well. I think what it does well, and it works well. I just feel like it's hard for me to sit down with it for like 2 hours, because after I do a couple runs, the enemies are kind of seeming the same. The levels kind of look a little bit the same. Like, it's not that varied. And so with that kind of experience, you really need to like lean into the guns or the abilities or the buffs or something to make it feel different. And I think they don't quite go far enough. To be fair, I was still unlocking stuff as I was playing, and so it's not like I finished the game or anything. But with the couple hours I put into it, I was already seeing some like repetitive loops in terms of gameplay and levels. So I think they could buff that. If they could make it a little bit more different looking, if you had different abilities, it would be great. But so far, I think it's pretty good. I am enjoying it, and I would recommend it to people who want a roguelike kind of experience. And frankly, it's kind of like a lower budget. I think it's like $15 or something, so it's not going to break the bank. You have to adjust expectations accordingly, but I think it's good looking, controls well, good concept, and I am having fun with it for sure. I just wish there was like a couple more crazy things about it, but they can't all be Hades, I guess. So there you go. That is ArcRunner, and I'm gonna take a quick look and see what's next on the agenda here. Oh, right. Okay. Racine, Racine, playing this on the Switch. I picked this up myself. I just saw it randomly in the eShop, and I decided to give it a shot. So this is a pretty interesting one. It is I don't know. I don't want to call it a clicker game. It kind of is a clicker game, but it's also kind of a roguelike, and it's also kind of a deck builder. It is a 2D experience comprising all of those elements, where you're in some kind of, I don't know, fantasy world or something. You have this guy, and the graphics are super lo-fi. Like, they're just like black pixely shapes, but the animation is really nice. Like, your main character, even though he's only like 16 pixels high, he or she has a flowing cape, and when they move, like it's all very smooth and flowing. I think it's really good looking. It kind of reminds me a little bit of the first Nidhogg, if any of you remember that. Kind of that same like really, really lo-fi, but also really smooth animated. I dig that look very much. I think it's very cool. So you put together a deck of at least 8 cards. I'm not sure if you can have more than 8, but at least 8 cards. And they'll be something like, attack plus 1% or defense plus 1%. Something heal for 25 points or something like that. So this is an interesting one, because when you you get your character, you get your deck, you go out into the world, and the world looks like a map, just like a big map of points. And you choose whatever point you want to go to. There's up, there's down, there's side, whatever. You can see the icons. There's shops. There's random encounters with people. There's challenges. Basically, like any kind of like roguelike deck builder these days, they all kind of follow the same kind of template ever since Slay the Spire like locked it in for everyone. So it's kind of like a Slay the Spire type map. And once you get in there and you do some combat, what happens is your character's on the left, enemies roll in from the right, and your character will auto attack every few seconds. I believe that's affected by your speed stat. So they just sit there and attack, and what you want to do is you have a counter, an energy counter that is slowly counting up in the left-hand bottom corner side of the screen. It's like starts at 0 and it just counts up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. And whenever you have enough points, you can key off one of your cards. You'll start with like a handful of cards. And so this is kind of where it gets interesting. So you're auto attacking, but you're keying off the cards. And if you key off a card when an enemy attacks, you will counter that attack and take 0 damage while also getting the effect of the card. So it's kind of hard to imagine this, but like basically you're sitting there facing off. You're auto attacking. Enemies are auto attacking. You're looking at the cards. You're watching your enemy meter key up. You don't have to do anything really. If you just sit there, it'll like auto battle and it'll, play out how it plays out. But you really want to be active because you want to defend as many of these attacks as you can. And so the enemies will flash red. When they flash red, you key off a card if you have enough energy points to do it. Now, the trick is having enough energy points. You want to get that thing. I don't know if there's any way to make it rack up faster. I don't think that there is. So you got to be kind of strategic between what you want to tank and what you want to block. Because if you end up blocking all the attacks, you're going to run out of energy. It doesn't replenish that fast. And so it's kind of this juggling act between what am I going to key off? Should I key off a heal? Should I key off a shield? Should I key off a whatever? And then also, maybe I need to tank something because I don't have enough points, or maybe I want to save some points for the next card coming up. So there's a bit of strategy there, which is pretty nice. I like that a lot. And then after that, you move on to the next stage, and then so forth and so on. So it's pretty straightforward in that way. It sounds like there's a lot of elements to it, but you pick it up pretty quickly. Now, the real twist, though, is that every time you key off one of those defense up, attack up, critical hit up, or anything like that in any of these battles, it stays with you persistently for the rest of the game. So if you start level 1 and you have zeros all across the board, you're just a straight up normal vanilla character, that's fine. Let's say, for example, at the end of the first battle, you key off like a defense up 5 times. Like they're all like 1%. At the end of that battle, your character will have a permanent 5% defense up. So the more battles you partake, the more chances you have to key off these ups on your stats, and you keep those persistently for the length of the run. So if you do well, and you're able to up all your different stats, up your attack, up your criticals, up your defense, you keep all those buffs, and so you slowly get stronger as you go over the course of the map. Stronger and stronger and stronger. That's pretty interesting. I've never really seen anybody try that particular thing before. I thought that was quite a fun concept, and I like the idea of slowly accumulating all these things that you're doing over the course of the entire campaign. I believe there's 4 worlds, but each world is pretty lengthy. I think each world has, depending on your path through, I want to say at least like 30 or 35 battles or something, which is actually like a lot. So I think that's interesting. Great concept. I like the kind of auto battler plus idea where you're actively engaged by wanting to like defend all the time. I think that's a good thing. I think overall it's really interesting. The only downside to this, it's maybe more the downside. I think my takeaway from this is it feels like the greatest start to a game that is only maybe like half finished. I feel like there wasn't enough to it, and by the time I got about halfway through the first world, I was like, okay, I totally get the idea. I think this idea is awesome. I like the permanent ups. I like the way the card system works. I think the active countering is good, but it does boil down to feeling like you're doing the same battle over and over and over. So I've heard some people who played this game, they say that not all builds are the same. I can't vouch for that. I have not tried all the different builds that you can do by selecting your cards, but picking whatever cards I liked and just kind of rolling with it, I thought I had pretty good success. The only problem was like it does get pretty tough, and by the time I got to the end of the first world, not only was I feeling like I was kind of doing the same battles over and over, not enough variation there, but also the difficulty ramped up to the point where I would start a match, my energy counter would start rolling up. I would be pretty weak. I wouldn't have enough energy to key off more than like 1 card. but there were so many enemies, there was just no way for me to counter, because if you don't have energy, you can't counter. So I ended up like tanking, and then it's not tanking anymore. It's just like I'm just getting killed here. And so I would hit about the same point in each run that I did, and I really don't know what I could do to fix that. I don't know what to change. I'm not sure how to get past that. So I don't know if maybe I'm just missing something, or maybe I need to increase some of my stats. Similar to the other games I mentioned today, when you finish a run, you keep some points, you invest those in abilities when you start a new run, which is okay. You know, it'll be like, you know, you can see enemies attack. That's one of the abilities you can get. You can lower the price of some of your cards, which I think is helpful. But it doesn't change drastically the feeling of how this plays, which is, again, a recurring theme, right? I've already mentioned it like twice, at least so far in the show, where with a roguelike, you really need each run to feel at least somewhat different. And this one doesn't feel somewhat different. So even though I think it's great idea, great start, it needs more variation, maybe different character classes to choose from the start, maybe a wider variety of cards, maybe different effects in the cards that make it feel like you're doing something different. Because I did feel like I was kind of doing the same thing, and I would eventually get to that point where the enemies were just overwhelming me. I don't know if it's just not tuned enough, if there's something I'm misunderstanding or something, but I kept dying in roughly the same spot. And I didn't quite know how to get past it. So I'll do a little bit more research. I think it's a great idea. This was pretty cheap. I want to say it was a couple bucks, like $2-3 or something like that. So it wasn't like this huge investment, but it does feel like it needs a little bit more time in the oven, even though what they've got so far is pretty cool. Like I said, a great beginning, but I don't think it's quite there yet, even though it is like quote unquote finished and being sold in the eShop. So that is Racine, Racine. A lot of really cool ideas here. Even if it didn't quite get there, I'm still really glad I played it. And I think it's pretty interesting. I like seeing stuff like this because it shows that developers out there are always innovating, always creative, always trying to come up with something new, which I definitely appreciate for sure. Next up is Fireside, currently playing this on the Switch, comes from Emergo Entertainment and published by Nord Current. This is a ultra chill, super lo-fi, kind of hand-drawn art, vibey, relaxing, kick-back sort of game. You play as a character who has washed up on an island. The art for this game is like hand-drawn. It almost looks like a kid's scribbles. Like if you gave a bunch of crayons and some paper to a kid that was maybe like 9 and be like, yo, can you please draw some art for my game? And they're like, sure. This is kind of what they would come up with. And I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. I think it's really cute and fun. It's got a good, like, warm vibe to it. So that's all good. So basically, you're this merchant who washes up on this island. You lost all your goods. You got to, like, rebuild your merchant empire. But at the same time, you're meeting the inhabitants of this place who have also washed up there. And you kind of just, like, there's no combat whatsoever. You just, like, talk to people. There's the fireplace, like, you know, logs, campfire. You just talk to these people. Hey, how's it going? What's up? And they're like, oh yeah, we're stuck on this island, and me too. And oh, well, that's fine. Let's just make the best of it. Let's be friends. And so you kind of just vibe for a second. But then after that, you get sucked into the spirit world, and the spirit is like, hey, yo, the spirit world is falling apart because we need you to do some stuff for us in the real world. And how you do this is by generating goodwill with people. And how you do that is by trading with them and fulfilling their requests. And the more goodwill you get, the more you can help us restore the spirit world, and then things are going to be cool. So that's the basic premise. You go back to the real world, and if you've ever played one of those games where you have a quest to fulfill and you need to get like an item, let's say for example you need like I don't know, like an iron beam for a bridge. Well, you don't have iron, but you do have a pencil, and then you give it to a guy, and the guy who wants the pencil has like a sponge. And then you take that sponge and you take it to somebody who might have a radish, and you give them the sponge and you get the radish, and you get the radish and you take that to a guy who gives you spaghetti, and then that guy trades it to the guy who's got the iron beam, right? So like it's like this like 9 chain of trades that you got to do in order to get the thing. That's kind of what it's like that thing in the game. So you have a limited inventory space. You talk to people, and people will just tell you, sometimes they just want to chat, but also each person that you meet will have this like, oh, I want XYZ, like these little icons above their head. So you can see who needs what. And then you can kind of gauge what you want to take and what people want. And you want to like do these trades. My first quest was to, I think, rebuild a bridge. I needed like 2 pieces of wood and some nails. And so I had to walk around. I had like seashells and coconuts, feel like I had something else like cocoa beans or something like that. And so I needed to trade those things to a person. I got the bridge built, and then I got to the new area of the land. How you move around, though, it's not really real time. You kind of go from campfire to campfire. So you'll be at a campfire at nighttime talking to people, trading. Then you go to bed. You wake up the next day, and you just pick another campfire to go to. So there's no like exploring of an overworld. There's no like wandering around. It's not Legend of Zelda or anything like that. You're just going from campfire to campfire. So basically, you spend your day walking from campfire to campfire. It takes a few seconds. And then along the way, you may pick up an item. So let's say you're looking at the map. You've got a choice of 2 campfires. You walk to the left campfire, it's got a coconut on the ground. You walk to the right campfire, it's got a carrot on the ground. You got to pick which path you want to go. Whichever path you choose, you will get that thing, whether it's a coconut or a carrot. That'll be added to your inventory. And then when you get where you're going, hopefully you made the right choice, and someone, when you get there, will want either your coconut or your carrot or what have you. There's lots of cooking recipes, and so you may find yourself collecting things in order to make a recipe that ultimately you will cook and then give to somebody. Like somebody wants a rice dish, somebody wants teriyaki chicken or whatever. You got to cook the thing in order to get them happy, but you got to track down the ingredients. And in order to get the ingredients, you got to trade for all those things as well. So basically, this game is just like walking around, trading things to people, and talking to people, getting the vibes for just being these really cool, colorful-looking people on the island. So it's supremely chill. That's really all there is to it. The only one questionable decision I have about it is that once you get a little bit into the game, they impose a time limit, which I don't quite understand. For a game as laid back and vibey as this one is, it seems kind of counterintuitive to have a time limit. But when you get to the real world, you have a limit of like 5 campfires before you got to go back to the spirit world. And when you go back there, you lose everything except for one item, which again, I don't quite understand what they were going for there. It seems like they want you to chill out, have a good time, talk to people. And it's not going to be easy to get all the items at first because you don't really have anything, especially with like the ability of the ghost to take some of your stuff away from you when you come back to the spirit world. Seems like they're kind of setting you up for a little bit of failure at the beginning. I don't quite know why they were doing that. It didn't make a lot of sense to me in terms of gameplay. It's not like I'm going to be really achieving super hard to do these things. I mean, it seems like they should just let you enjoy yourself. So it's not a huge deal, but it just was kind of a discordant note. And I wasn't really quite sure what they were going for other than perhaps wanting to extend the playtime by not making the game too easy. But again, if you're playing something like this, I doubt you're here for the challenge. You're here for the vibes. You're here for the good time. You're here for the chats. You're here for the cool art. You're not here to like really work that hard, I don't think. So I'm not sure the developers really got that correct. But the rest of it is pretty chill. Like this is the perfect game to kick back with when you're in bed, when you're just like relaxing, when you don't want to, you don't want to shoot anybody. You don't want to get shot. You don't want to worry about power-ups or anything. You don't want to remember too much about that. You want to just like play something that's just nice and easy and will gently rock you into bedtime. This is that game. I think that's perfectly what it's for. So if you want something that's laid back and chill and you want to trade with people and you want to just have a good time and don't worry about combat, Fireside might very well be the thing you are looking for. All right, final games of the show. This is kind of a funny one because I didn't plan to do what I did here, but I ended up doing it anyway. So didn't expect it, but here we are. My plan was to talk about Space Crew, playing it on the Switch, coming to us from developer Runner Duck. I believe this is their second game, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe it's a pretty small indie house. Space Crew was the sequel to Bomber Crew, which I'll get to in a second. But basically, you have a spaceship that you take on these various missions, but it's not like you're flying around actiony. It's kind of like a time management, disaster management sim. Is disaster management, is that a genre? I think that maybe it is. So what happens is you can have a cutaway ant view of the inside of the ship. It's kind of like low-fi polygons. It's very cute. Everybody's got like slightly big heads. And you look inside the ship and you can see the pilot's chair, the engineer station, the communication station, the gunners, front, back, side to side. So there's might be a couple more people in the ship, but basically like you can have an overview of where they're at. Then you fly into space and, you switch back and forth between each person. Each person has their own job. Like the pilot controls the ship. You got to tell the pilot where to go. The communication person has to be on the lookout for nav points and stuff like that. The gunners are all manning a gun because you're watching out for space pirates. The engineer can fix things that break on the ship, so forth and so on. The security officer can like vent parts of the ship if aliens board, or he can help increase your shields. Everybody's got like 3 or 4 jobs or something like that, right? There's also cooldown abilities and stuff like that. So basically, you take your ship with your little guys and gals and trans people, non-binary, whatever. Doesn't matter. You're all little video game people on a ship. You fly out and you go on these various missions that you choose. Sometimes it'll be like rescue a scientist from a space station. Sometimes it'll be kill aliens. Sometimes it'll be do research or whatever. So you fly out there and you select your points. The ship kind of auto flies as long as your pilot's alive. And then as you go, you get attacked by aliens. So you kind of pause in space, you shoot. Again, auto shooting, because like all your gunners are in their seats. As long as the gunners are in the seats, the guns will fire. And then you like fight them off. As this is happening, you are managing stuff inside the ship. So you're kind of going back and forth between an outer view of seeing space and the ship and the alien ships, and then in the interior view where you're looking at everybody at their station and something happens. So let's say an alien shoots your ship, like your oxygen support might go out. And so you need to like go into the ant farm view, look at your engineer, send him over to the oxygen support, fix that up. Or maybe your gravity will go out, or maybe, something will break, like your gun will break, or sometimes the aliens board your ship, which is pretty stressful. They'll like get on the back of your ship and come inside, and you got to grab guns and send all your guys to go shoot the aliens. But while they're doing that, they're not at their stations. So there's all sorts of stuff keying off. Like sometimes asteroids show up, you're getting shot from outside, you might be boarded, fires break out, people might be injured, you got to bring them to the med bay. So there's like lots of stuff going on inside your ship and outside your ship, and you're kind of bouncing back and forth between all of these different tasks. It helps that not everything is something you have to do by yourself. Like I said, a lot of stuff is automated. The pilot will fly, the communications officer will do his thing, the gunners will shoot. So you don't have to do like every single thing yourself. Like you're not telling everybody to micromanage, but sometimes you do have to do that. But with the large strokes happening automatically, it helps. You can also kick the game into like ultra slow down motion, where it slows down to like 1% of the normal speed, so that you have time to think about things and move things around. And that's basically that's how the game goes. As you finish missions and progress, you will get money and research. Both of those things are used to upgrade your ship. You can get better shielding, better generators, better guns, better gear for your people, and just, kind of like slowly upgrade. So it's kind of like a repetitive mission grind where you're getting resources, but also you're doing these individual tasks in space, with some of those things being automated and some of those things being manually done. Mostly the disaster stuff, like you want to put out a fire, you want to put somebody in sick bay or something, you got to kind of do that on your own. And so you're just like managing a lot of things that can go wrong. It's okay. I got into this because I was originally playing Bomber Crew, which again, I'll get to in a second. And I finished Bomber Crew, loved it. And I wanted to play the sequel. This is the sequel. But I got to say, I even though it's good, I don't think it's as good as Bomber Crew, which I'll tell you about in a moment. I do think, however, I want to be fair in saying that I played Space Crew when it first launched, and I thought it was pretty subpar. I was like, this is not what I expected. Bomber Crew was a lot better than this. I feel like they're lacking. And I think that the developers must have agreed, because I just came back to it yesterday after not having played it for, it must have been a couple years at least. They patched a lot of it. They added a lot of features to it. So, like I always say on the show, the best time to play any game is at least 6 months after launch. That is absolutely true here, because there were loads of features that were here that were not there at launch. For example, difficulty settings, some of the stuff that got even more automated. For example, the guy who was at the communication station, or the guy or the girl or the trans person or whatever, you used to have to do that by hand. That person, as long as they're in the station, will be fully automated, which is a big help, because you don't have to like manually tag enemies for the gunners to find them. There are a few other things that are automated as well that I thought helped out with the difficulty level. You can have one extra crew member in your ship, which helps because, as you might imagine, one of the key aspects of this genre is like you usually don't have enough people to do everything. There's usually always one station going unmanned. And that is kind of where the problem comes in, because you might be shooting the gun, but you need somebody to put out the fire. Then you put out the fire, but nobody's shooting the gun, that kind of a thing. With the update, you can add one more person to your team, which helps out a lot. So I think that effectively gives you one person for each station, which makes a lot of sense, because if you were a spaceship, why would you not want to fly out there fully staffed? That made better sense. So there's definitely some changes. There's also a big DLC that got added to it, adding more mission types. There's like away team missions now, which weren't there before. There's more customization for the ship. So overall, I think Space Crew, like right now, June 30th, 2024 is a much better package than it was when it launched. But that said, I still think it isn't quite there yet. Something about being in space doesn't feel as exciting or as visceral as being on a bomber and bomber crew. And so I think it just kind of, it ends up feeling a little bit too grindy, and it kind of vacillates back and forth between being kind of boring because not enough, you're not doing enough, or if you take away some of the supports, you're doing too much. And I think it's difficult to find the sweet spot in this. I don't think the developers found the sweet spot either. It feels like some of the accessibility they're doing is kind of just to fix some of the things they didn't quite know how to fix. So I appreciate that very much. I want to be clear. I do appreciate that they took the time to fix things because this game wasn't quite kosher when it launched. So I like that they tried their best to get it to where it needed to go. I just don't think that the Space Crew game is it's just not firing on all the cylinders it needs to. So I was curious to see if this patched, fixed, expanded version would capture my attention. It did not. But what it did make me do is go back to Bomber Crew, the original game from Runner Duck. In Bomber Crew, playing it on the Switch, playing both these games on the Switch, by the way, you're in like an old World War II style flying fortress bomber. And you have the cutaway side view of the bomber. You have the outer view. Structurally very similar to Space Crew, but instead of being in space, you're like flying above France and Germany and Italy and England in this little bomber. Same big head guys, same basic setup. You got a pilot, you got a gunner, you got a bomber, you got a tail gunner, nose gunner, top gunner, bottom gunner. You equip your ship with like armor, different guns, abilities, and stuff like that. But Bomber Crew, fuck, dude. I don't know what it is, but that game fucking fires on like every level. Like Runner Duck knocked it out of the park with their first one. And they had the sophomore stumble with Space Crew. But Bomber Crew, fucking so fucking good, dude. I went back to it after I got done with Space Crew, and I'm like, I'm not feeling Space Crew. I don't feel it. I'm like, but I really would like to play some more Bomber Crew. And to paint the scene for you, I finished Bomber Crew, okay? I finished Bomber Crew 100%. I played the DLC, which is the American version. You go to the American planes instead of the British planes. I finished that. I did everything in this game that you can do. I fucking rinsed the hell out of this game, and I still wanted to play it more. Like, I still have super fond memories of it. And when I came back today, holds up. It's fucking great. Not an exaggeration to say Bomber Crew is one of my favorite Switch games of all time. Possibly one of my favorite games of all time. And I haven't really talked about it because I haven't played it for quite a while, but I came back to it and like right away, I'm like, oh yes, this game is the shit. I remember why it's so fucking good. There's a number of elements that are different, even though on paper it seems very similar to Space Crew. I think one thing is that your ship in Bomber Crew is constantly in motion. Like you're looking at where you are in relation to the land. When you're in space, you're just in space. There's nothing there. It's just blackness. It's just void, nothing. But in Bomber Crew, like you're above Germany, you're above England, you're above Italy, whatever. And so you've got to like keep an eye out for that. Like you're constantly like navigating. That gives you something to do. You have to manually target the enemies coming in, which you can do in Space Crew, but it feels kind of a little bit overwhelming for some reason. For something about it feels different in Space Crew than it does in Bomber Crew. In Bomber Crew, it feels good. In Space Crew, it feels like too much. I'm not quite sure why. But in Bomber Crew, so you're constantly like scanning for enemies. And then you also have the bombs. I mean, you have a bomber. So like you've got to manage your ship that you're flying, your bomber. You're launching out for enemies. You're managing your altitude, high, medium, low. You're also managing like the bombs. And so you got to open the bomb bay doors. You've got the bombardier who's got like looking at a scope. And so you've got to like watch that. And the tension between knowing that you've got Germans on your tail and you're taking damage and you need that nose gunner to be at the nose gun station, but he also needs to drop the bombs. And so you're running a little bit shorthanded. You're flying around. You're trying to like do evasive action, but at the same time, you've got to keep your eye on the target because you got to drop that bomb right where it needs to go. All of those things together, fucking amazing. I fucking love this game. I love it because also it's great because it's a good balance between that real-time action, but also managing the inside of the plane. Like your guys run out of ammo. You got to be very judicious about when you take a gunner off his gun to go get more ammo and come back. Sometimes people get hurt, so you got to like have like little med kits. You got to like heal them in the plane if they get shot through the armor. Sometimes you get cold. You got to have like cold gear because you're too high up in the altitude. All sorts of stuff happening, and also just watching out for like anti-aircraft guns, and so you're like managing the larger movements of the plane. It all just feels very present and immediate and visceral, and you're in the shit. And even though structurally it seems similar to Space Crew does not have that sense of urgency, that sense of danger, that sense of I need to do something right now. I need to like keep this plane in the air. Like it doesn't have that same sense. So Bomber Crew is fucking fantastic. If you haven't tried Bomber Crew, highest possible recommendation for me. I think it's fucking just genius. Stroke of fucking genius. Runner Duck really, really nailed it. I mean, so many elements I think are on point. I think it's so fun. And it's purely a systems driven game. Like, don't come here for the story, because there is no story other than we're going to try to win World War II in the air. Beyond that one sentence, there is no story, but this is about managing the plane, managing your ammo, watching out, protecting your troops, getting them kitted up right, flying through enemy territory, avoiding radar, dropping the bomb, getting out, getting away from enemy aces. Like, it's all fucking just like, it all just comes together so fucking well. And I got to say, one of my favorite moments in any game ever is being in the shit, like taking a bunch of damage, putting out fires, coming back with like two engines or three engines out. You've only got one engine left. You're managing the fuel, switching the fuel between the engines. All this on the Switch. It's all working perfectly. And then you drop that landing gear and you can see the landing strip ahead of you. You know you're going to come in, and just seeing that plane smoking, hanging, bits falling apart off it, your guy's in bad shape, and coming back to the landing strip and just putting that bird down on the ground. Fucking phenomenal, dude. I love that so much. Like, it's such a rush. Even though this game looks cartoony and silly, it's got really low-fi graphics. It's on the Switch. I mean, it looks pretty basic if you looked at a screenshot. Like, it wouldn't be that impressive. But that game, every fucking cylinder fires off. Everything perfect. Like, everything is where it needs to go. It's had a number of tweaks. It's got a couple of DLCs. All that stuff together is just fucking fantastic. If anything I've said sounds even remotely interesting, check out Bomber Crew. It's an old game by now. Gosh, when did it even come out? Let me look up real quick. 2017. 2017 is when this game came out, and it is still fucking masterclass, dude. So if you want to check that out, highest possible recommendation. I'm going to fucking go play it as soon as I get done with the show, because like talking about it makes me want to play it right now. It is just like so fucking on point. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. It's so great. So Bomber Crew is the shit. Space Crew, it's okay. It's all right. I played worse, but I think Bomber Crew is really where the action's at. And I am really excited also because Runner Duck is working on a third game, and this is called Badlands Crew. Now, it's not out yet. It's in early access, or I think they're still working on it, something like that. But I saw a video recently, I think just a couple months ago, they announced it, and it's kind of like Mad Max. And so you have land vehicles, same idea. You kind of do the cutaway ant farm thing of like people on your car, like your driver, your gunner. I'm sure you've got a gas pumper, you've got a defense guy, whatever. And you're building your car, these like land vehicle cruiser things that look like, the Mad Max out of Fury Road or something like that. Guns on the top, weird car bits, like, trailers and stuff, driving through the fucking desert while these marauders are kind of harrying you on all sides. That looks fucking phenomenal. I think that looks amazing. There's a new element to it where you construct your car. That's never been a thing before. Like, you either had the bomber, which you could change bits of it, but it was already pre-made. Or in Space Crew, you have your spaceship. You could change bits, but also pre-made. This one looks like you're assembling the whole thing from scratch, which is like a new element for Runner Duck. Very curious to see how that goes. I am super hyped about this. I really hope that they reclaim that mojo they had in Bomber Crew, because that would be just phenomenal. I love the idea of a Mad Max vehicle cruising through. You've got your little guys on it, like just gunning people away and trying to get from point A to point B. Fucking looks so awesome. So I'm very psyched about that. But the takeaway here, Bomber Crew is the ultimate shit. One of the all-time best games on the Switch. One of my all-time favorite games. Check it the fuck out. I'm glad I checked it out again. Honestly, I think I'm going to replay the entire campaign again, because it's just that fucking good. I just love fucking playing this game. Bomber Crew, the shit, from Runner Duck. Excellent, excellent stuff. All right, folks. That is it for the game portion of the show this week. Games are officially done, but as always, I do have a few non-game things to mention before I bounce here. First up, The Secrets of Sulphur Springs, watching it on Disney. We just finished season 3, the end of the series. This is a series about a white family and a black family who are living in Louisiana. They both have history around an old haunted hotel. And then, before you know it, a time travel element gets worked into it, and they kind of go back and forth in time, trying to solve the mysteries of the haunting of the hotel, what happened to their families, how their families are related, and where they go in the future. It looks pretty kiddie and cutesy if you watch a trailer, but man, we ended up really liking it like quite a bit. I thought it was just a really well done series. Obviously a family show, it wasn't that dark, it wasn't that scary, but it was just really good. Lots of cool notes. I really like the handling of the time travel, especially in the first season where it seemed like somebody was a ghost in the present, but they were still alive in the past, and having the kids go back and forth between the two times was pretty interesting. I heard on the grapevine that this show was canceled and it ended on a giant cliffhanger, which made me really tense. I like the show a lot. I didn't want it to end in a bad way. I'm fine if shows have an end, but I hate when they end prematurely and the writers don't get a chance to wrap up. So we were worried. The whole family was worried. But I got to say, I got to the end of season 3 and I felt like it totally wrapped up. They could have gone for a season 4. That would have been fine. But I feel like the writers absolutely did have a chance to wrap things up. I did not feel as though there were any loose ends. I didn't feel like it was a bad ending. I felt like they got where they wanted to go. They left it open for a season 4. That didn't happen, but that's okay because season 3 wrapped up. I got a very satisfying resolution, and I feel like the series overall was great stuff. So definite recommend for The Secrets of Sulphur Springs. I believe it's only available on Disney+. Want to give a shout out to The Tick, currently watching it on Amazon. This is the 2016 series. I know there's a cartoon. There's also another live action series that was before this one. This is the 2016 live action reboot at Amazon. I believe it's an Amazon Prime exclusive. This is the story. I don't know if you're familiar, but The Tick has been around for a while. It was like super popular in comics a while ago. I remember when it dropped and it was just like the biggest thing in the comics world at the time, written by Ben Edlund. It was like a real sensation, overnight sensation. But basically it tells the story of Arthur, who is an accountant, mild-mannered guy living in a world of superheroes. He meets a nigh invulnerable superhero called the Tick, a big blue kind of doofus, and he attaches himself to Arthur, not literally, because he calls himself the Tick, but he doesn't drink blood. He just has like this blue suit with antenna on it. And the Tick is like this kind of like, you kind of wonder if he's mildly insane or if he's psychotic or something in a good way. He just seems to have a very tenuous grip on reality. And Arthur's like a worrywart and more of the realist of the two. And they kind of go on these like misadventures, dealing with like the downsides of being in the superhero world. It's really well done. I think this Amazon series is a really cool reboot. At first, you're not sure if the Tick is a figment of Arthur's imagination or not, so that's an interesting angle to develop. They also have other supervillains that show up in the show. Lots of funny writing. It's very irreverent. Lots of like laughs and good moments. I really enjoy this one a lot. We're only on episode 3 or 4, and I think there's 2 seasons, possibly 3 seasons. But definitely enjoying this one. Pretty good adaptation so far. And if you've never read The Tick, go and check it out. It's a pretty funny read from back in the day. Also watched a couple horror comedies. As everyone who listens to the show probably knows, horror comedy is my favorite genre. My wife's favorite genre also. So we often will like take a morning and like watch something spoopy and laughy before the kid gets up. We watched Tusk this week, coming from Kevin Smith. I guess he did some kind of a Twitter campaign about this movie. I missed it when it happened, but this is the story of seriously, I'm not joking. This is the story of a guy who gets captured. He's like this idiot podcaster. He gets captured by a serial killer guy who doesn't just kill him, but he wants to transform him physically into a walrus by doing weird surgeries on him, putting him in this like strange skin suit. It's fucking bizarre. It's really funny. It's gross. I thought it was just like kind of unbelievable in a few parts. And when we got done watching this movie, I was like, wow, that was the thing that happened. And I feel like I'm a different person now. I don't know if I'm a better person or a worse person, but I feel like a different person. And I guess I'm so glad I watched it. It was really, it was pretty wild. It was pretty wild. Justin Long is in it. And I think Justin Long is honestly one of the most underappreciated actors of our generation. I think he does so many good roles, so many fun roles. He really commits to anything that he does. Any film or show he's in, I feel like is just better because he's in it. I definitely don't think he gets enough appreciation. It's like him and Daniel Radcliffe, I think, are 2 of the best actors of the generation. I'll watch anything with either one of those guys in it. They're just so fucking good. So Tusk was great. Really weird and wacky. I mean, be ready for, I don't know, just like utter strangeness when you watch it, but definitely worth a watch. Final movie, another horror comedy called Bloodsucking Bastards. Just watched this one this morning. This was pretty funny. It's about a cubicle hell office job where the people are just slackers and losers and everybody hates their life basically. And they're doing terrible. Their sales are in the toilet. And so it looks like they do telemarketing or something because yuck, gross. I've done that job before and wow, is it fucking miserable. Anyway, the boss decides to spice things up by hiring vampires. Vampires show up and they start converting people into actual vampires and hijinks ensue. I'm not going to give away the whole thing, but Pedro Pascal is in this from before he blew up. There's a couple other notable actors in it that I think are pretty funny. And it's really great to get the Office commentary in addition to like battling vampires. There's a lot of laughs, very irreverent, very relatable if you've ever worked in an office or a cubicle or telemarketing or anything like that. A lot of the bullshit you put up with, a lot of the like the despair you feel was well captured on film here. And I thought it was just a really fun ride. It was much better than the trailer let on, so definitely a thumbs up for that one. Bloodsucking Bastards was a very good time. And that's the show. Before the closing music kicks in, I would love for you to leave a review, share the show on social media, and most important of all, please recommend So Videogames to your friends because nothing beats good old word of mouth. If you would like to support the show and help with the cost of running the podcast, you can do that over at patreon.com/the So Videogames podcast. If you want to join the Discord, that is now free of charge. As always, I would love to get your questions and comments. Hit me up, sovideogamespodcast@gmail.com, or hit me up on social media. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky. It's my name, BRADGALLAWAY, all A's, no O's. And this is going to do it for episode 395. Thank you again for joining me here on the So Videogames podcast, and I'll see you next week.